Well, I'm going to turn next to your newest book, The Cost of Ambition. In the beginning of your book, you recount the story of Cain and Abel. And it's a story to me that I've always found quite perplexing. I wonder if you can just recount for our listeners what that story is and what you've learned from it.
Yeah, there's so many things to learn from those stories, and partly there's so many things to learn because they are kind of open-ended, so you can interpret them in multiplicity of ways. And I was fascinated early on with that story, and here you have, and especially for the topic of striving for superiority or guarding superiority, because striving for superiority means also attending to superiority that you have, and not just aspiring to superiority that you do not have yet. And at the beginning of this story, Eve gives birth to two boys. One boy, she is a proud mother who is totally delighted in her son. With this child, she became a mother. The second one, she names vapor, vanity. So to speak, that he already from the get-go is in the eyes of his own mother, a kind of nobody. Right?
Yeah.
And might have translated into his own self-understanding. We don't see that, but we see the self-understanding of Cain. He thinks that he is the most important.
Yeah.
And when his image of himself as superior gets to be upended by God looking favorably on the offering of Abel, but not on his own offering for whatever reason that was, his whole world is turned upside down. He cannot stand not being the superior one. And so that the first murder is a result of striving to maintain the superior status that I have in relation to the one who seemed that ought to be inferior to me. So that striving for superiority is, I think, clearly inscribed within the first pages of the Bible.
Yeah. And what is the warning that God gave to Cain? I feel like it's like haunts me. I can't quite remember the phrasing of it.
Well, that sin was crouching at the door. It's almost like sin is like some kind of an animal who's ready to pounce on Cain. But Cain can't quite resist it. And that's also a very interesting side of that story, because not just striving for superiority, but any form of kind of negative behavior can come at us with the force of obsession. And no matter how hard we push, we sometimes cannot let go of it. We have been almost like held captive. And I think that's a very important thing to keep in mind. I think sometimes that is the case with striving for superiority. It's an alien force.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we find ourselves today in your culture and mine, very competitive society, benchmarking ourselves against other people's performance, whether a number of publications or books or awards. And as I was reading your book and I was reflecting, if one values high performance and achievement, I can clearly imagine two ways to motivate oneself. One would be identify somebody that I want to be better at. So that's much of what your book consists of, is, benchmarking against others and trying to outdo them. Another would be to strive to be the best version of yourself. It's like, I might be able to throw a baseball 60 miles an hour. If I train really hard, maybe I could learn to throw 80. Those are two different kinds of motivations, I think, that could both lead to strong improvement and good results. In your mind, to what degree does it matter what motivation you draw from in order to pursue high-achieving activities?
That is a really central question. Critique of striving for superiority is not a critique of striving for improvement. It's not critique of striving to be better. It's critique of striving to be better than somebody else. And so
Uh-huh.
the difference between comparing myself with other person rather than comparing myself with where I was before
Mm-hmm.
yesterday or 2 weeks before, that is a really fundamental and very important thing. When I compare myself with myself, I can play on my strengths. I can play to what I want to be qua myself. Of course, this presumes a certain kind of knowledge of who I am, what my capacities are, what my
Mm-hmm.
passions are.
Yeah.
But I can remain true to myself and continue to engage in this growth effort of striving. But if I
Mm-hmm.
compare myself with others, I am always shaped by a common denominator, something that's outside me that may fit me, but that may not, that may
Mm-hmm.
actually divert me from the strengths that I have. But just because I want to be better than somebody else, I want to excel in something in which I am not so good at.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be deceiving, though, in some ways, even striving to be better than oneself. Because what's valuable in me about me? How
Yeah.
do I determine what value I should embrace and what is valuable? And
Yeah.
often that comes because of certain kind of projections that have
Mm.
been made on me, or I have looked and saw something attractive outside. And
Yeah.
so this striving to be better than myself often is dependent on the gaze of others,
Yeah. Yeah.
and can result in certain kind of inauthenticity if you
Mm-hmm.
want. Hence, I like to
Yeah.
speak about striving for certain kind of objective excellence, some kind of
Mm-hmm.
value that I can anchor myself in, and then striving for that.